What's up, everybody? Are you overwhelmed by the never-ending supply of depressing bad news? Well, let's refill our tanks with 7 recent positive stories. This is Giddy news for the week of September 1st, 2018. Jimmy and Rosalynn Carter's 35-year habitat history, told mostly through photos, is the Giddy news headline, courtesy of Jill Vejnoska of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and a link to the source article will be included in the description below. So this one comes out of my home state of Georgia, and the Georgia native and former U.S. President Jimmy Carter regarding his work with Habitat for Humanity, building homes. So the Jimmy and Rosalynn Carter work project began in September of 1984. They led a small group of volunteers to New York City's East Village to help provide safe and affordable housing for 19 families in an apartment building. So the following July they returned to New York and then went to Chicago, Illinois in '86, Charlotte, North Carolina in '87, and then in 1990 they went international for the first time and went to Tijuana, Mexico. Over the first 34 years they've worked with over 100,000 volunteers to build, renovate, and repair over 4,000 homes in 14 different nations. And here's a quote from former President Jimmy Carter. "The habitat build is not a sacrifice," Carter told the crowd at the most recent opening ceremony. "We sometimes get too hot, sometimes get too cold, sometimes work overtime, but every time we've ever been out there as volunteers, whether in this country or around the world, at the end of the Habitat project, we always feel that Rosalynn and I got more out of it than we put into it." Thank you, President Carter. Young man invents water you can eat to help dementia patients like his grandma stay hydrated. That's the Giddy News headline, courtesy of Elizabeth Nelson at the Alzheimer's Site blog. People with Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia typically suffer from dehydration for a variety of reasons. Sometimes they just forget to drink water, or even if it's on their nightstand and just inches away, they forget because of what they're going through. Others are just in a situation where water is not palatable to them, and so they don't feel thirsty, and others even forget how to drink and find it difficult to swallow. And this is the situation that was going on with Louis Hornsby's grandmother, who was suffering from dementia. She wasn't getting enough water to drink. So Hornsby said that about a year ago his grandma was rushed to the hospital. She was found to be severely dehydrated. And his solution, what he came up with, was jelly drops. They're brightly colored, bite-sized balls of liquid that are easier to swallow than water, but are basically just as hydrating. They're 90% water with gelling agents and electrolytes to aid in hydration. They don't require any utensils, and they're easy to grasp, they're firm, and they don't leave any residue on the hands. The packaging doesn't look like a medical device, so it's not threatening. It just looks like an inviting box of candies. Hornsby says that he's found people with dementia immediately recognize the colorful jelly drops as a treat and are eager to eat them, even if they would normally turn down other types of food or drinks. A quote from Hornsby: "When first offered, Grandma ate 7 jelly drops in 10 minutes, the equivalent of a full cup of water. And that's something that would usually take hours and require much more assistance." So it's a really heartwarming story. There's a video of Hornby. I don't know if I've been calling him Hornsby or Hornby, but Hornby with his grandma, and I recommend you check it out and see how this works. The ocean cleanup is starting and aims to cut garbage patch by 90% by 2014 is the Giddy News headline here, and it's courtesy of Jeff Cart and Forbes, and you can find a link to the source in the description below. So there is a massive cleanup of plastic in the Pacific Ocean. There's the Great Pacific Garbage Patch that's being targeted, and the launch date for this cleanup is September 8th. So it's just about to start from the time of this taping. So the ocean cleanup is an effort that's been 5 years in the making, and it's going to launch its beta cleanup system, which is a 600-meter long floater that can collect about 5 tons of ocean plastic per month. The floater keeps plastics from flowing over the system while the skirt stops debris from escaping underneath. So basically it's like one of those self-directing pool cleaners, but on a much larger scale. So hopefully this big giant nautical Roomba will do some magic and clean up the oceans a bit. So Laniki Hollier-Hoek, doubt I'm getting her name correctly, so apologies to her on that. She's Chief Operating Officer at the Ocean Cleanup. I just want to end with a quote from her. She said, there needs to be changes. We have contributed to this problem since the 1950s as humanity. What is out there is out there. If no one goes and gets it, it will stay out there. She adds, I'm convinced our project does give hope, not false hope. We are solving a serious environmental problem with the cleanup. It also shows that we don't have to give up. Meek Mill to donate more than 6,000 backpacks to low-income kids in his hometown of Philadelphia is the Giddy news headline here, provided by Maura Holman of People, and there is a link to this article in the description below. So most of you probably know Meek Mill, the rapper. He's donating more than 6,000 backpacks and school supplies for pre-K through 12th grade in his hometown of Philadelphia. He's collaborated with the school district of Philadelphia for this initiative. A quote from Mill is, growing up in Philly, I've watched families struggle to make ends meet and to buy the basic school supplies for their kids. Those memories stay with me, and that's why I'm committed to giving back to families in my hometown, putting smiles on kids' faces and helping them start the school year on the right note with the right supplies. Mill and the Dream Chasers have visited 2 of the 12 schools he's working with to hand out backpacks and supplies in person, and one of them is his alma mater, James G. Blaine Elementary School. So this is some good charity work by Meek for his Philly community. In the past, he's donated 1,000 turkeys every year the night before Thanksgiving, and that's called a Dream Chasers Thanksgiving. So hopefully he will turn this into another yearly event, the turkeys he's been doing for about 5 years or so. So hopefully he will do this with the backpacks for the kids. Federal court says First Amendment protects sharing food with homeless people is the headline of this Giddy news, courtesy of Nick Sabia of Forbes, and a link to the source will be in the description below. So the 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that feeding the homeless is, quote, expressive conduct protected by the First Amendment. This decision revives a challenge that was brought by a local chapter of Food Not Bombs, which sued Fort Lauderdale, Florida for requiring a permit to share food in public parks. In February of 2015, Food Not Bombs sued Fort Lauderdale and claimed that the ordinance and the associated park rule violated their right to free speech and free association and were unconstitutionally vague. This isn't new to Fort Lauderdale. Thanks to the city's ordinance, in 2014, police arrested a 90-year-old man and 2 ministers who were trying to share food with the homeless. So the 11th Circuit, Judge Jordan noted that walking and sitting down aren't usually considered expressive conduct, but they certainly convey a message in the context of a picket line, a parade, or a sit-in. So likewise, when viewing in the full context, the Food Not Bombs events are more than just a picnic in the park. That's a quote. He said, since the chapter's events are open to the public, they occur against a backdrop of homeless policies that are controversial, take place near city government buildings, and involve tables and banners and distributing literature, the court concluded that a reasonable observer would interpret its food sharing as conveying some sort of message, which is critical to First Amendment freedom of speech. And here's a good quote. History may have been, this is the judge speaking, history may have been quite different had the Boston Tea Party been viewed as a mere dislike for a certain brew and not a political protest against the taxation of the American colonies without representation. So they ruled that Food Not Bombs does have a First Amendment right to share food, and the 11th Circuit sent the case back down to the lower court so that the court could determine if the ordinance violates those rights. Kirsten Anderson, who was the lead attorney on the case, is quoted as saying, the court's opinion recognized that sharing food with another human being is one of the oldest forms of human expression. We think the decision strengthens our message to cities across the country that they need to invest in constructive solutions to homelessness instead of wasting government resources on punishing people who seek to offer aid. Bird feared extinct, rediscovered in the Bahamas is the headline of this Giddy news, courtesy of Matthew Gardner at the Nassau Guardian. and a link to the source will be in the description below. The Bahama Nuthatch has been rediscovered by research teams. It was one of the rarest birds in the Western Hemisphere, and it was supposedly extinct following Hurricane Matthew in 2016, but research teams on the Grand Bahama Islands have rediscovered the bird, and so it looks like the Bahama Nuthatch is not going out just yet without a fight. So researchers were searching for the bird. The quote from Gardner is, "We had been scouring the forest for about 6 weeks and had almost lost hope. At that point we'd walked about 400 kilometers. Then I suddenly heard its distinctive call and saw the unmistakable shape of a nuthatch descending towards me. I shouted with joy. I was ecstatic." So great for them and great for the Bahama Nuthatch. A teacher sat in her car with a former student's baby so that the new mom could attend a job fair is the Giddy News headline. This article courtesy of Andrea Diaz of CNN, and a link to the source article will be included in the description below. Teachers are heroes, and here we have one specific example from Chicago. Teacher Rosalynn Carter. She always told her students that she'd be there for them if they needed her. And one of the students reached out, and Rosalynn Carter showed that she was good to her word. The student, Larisha Plummer, let Carter know that she had just had a baby and she was having trouble going to job interviews, trying to get a job. And she knew that taking her 3-week-old baby on public transit to try to go to a job fair was a risky move. And so Carter stepped up and picked them up just hours later, took Plummer to the job fair, and stayed in the car with the student's baby while Plummer went to apply for jobs. Along with being a good deed for Plummer, Carter also hopes that this helps to put her city of Chicago in a better light. Here's the quote: "Because of the murder rate in Chicago, we have such a bad reputation, but we can't be afraid to help others." Carter then went on to say, "I believe every day we get the opportunity to be someone's miracle." And there is an update on this article. Plummer now has a job and is also planning to attend college this fall. Thank you, Rosalynn Carter of Chicago, and all the teachers out there. Alright, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the Giddy News, and if you have a positive story you'd like for me to share, please include a link in the comments below. And until next time, thanks for watching.